All right, welcome. We use the internet for literally everything, streaming, talking, working. But when it comes to moving money around the world, the system is kind of stuck in the dark ages. But what you might not see is that behind the scenes, a huge upgrade is happening. It's not flashy, there are no big headlines, but it's a silent transition in the very bones of global finance. So let's dive into this hidden architecture.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to dig into a problem that's costing the world trillions. Then we'll look at the new architecture designed to fix it. We'll put the old and new systems head to head. And finally, we'll see how this massive change is getting rolled out, quietly, right under our noses. Okay, first up, the hidden problem with money. And this is a big one, because we're going to look at a surprising inefficiency that's creating a massive bottleneck in our supposedly modern global economy.
I mean, you have to ask yourself this question, right? It seems kind of crazy in this day and age. We can get a live video feed from the Mars rover, but sending $100 to a relative overseas can take days and cost a fortune. What is going on?
And there it is. That's the answer. And yeah, that might sound a little shocking, but it's the truth. The fundamental wiring of international finance was built before most of us were even born, way before the internet was a thing. It's a system built for sending messages, not for instantly moving value. So let's break down what that actually means. And that brings us right to the heart of the issue, this idea of sleeping capital. It's a multi-trillion-dollar bottleneck created by something called the Nostro/Vostro system. Okay, so here's a huge misconception most people have. We hear SWIFT payment, and we think SWIFT is moving our money. Spoiler, it doesn't. SWIFT is basically just a super secure chat app for banks. It sends the instructions, the "hey, please pay this person" message, but the actual money has to move through a whole different, much clunkier process.
And this is how the money actually moves. For a bank in New York to pay a bank in Paris, it has to already have an account in Paris, pre-filled with euros, and the French bank has to have one in New York, pre-filled with dollars. These are Nostro/Vostro accounts. Think of it like this. It's a giant, clunky, global network of pre-filled bank accounts just waiting for a SWIFT message to tell them what to do.
And the fallout from this old system, well, it's just mind-boggling. We're talking about an estimated $10 trillion. That's capital that is just sitting there, parked in these accounts all over the planet, doing absolutely nothing. It's sleeping capital, locked away just in case a payment comes through. And all that inefficiency, all that cost, eventually gets passed down to you and me.
Okay, so if we have trillions of dollars basically asleep at the wheel, what's the fix? Well, let's talk about a totally new way to think about this, a new architecture for moving value called On-Demand Liquidity, which is powered by XRP. Now, the first thing you got to understand about XRP is what it was built for. According to its creators, it wasn't meant to be another Bitcoin, something to speculate on. No, it was engineered from the ground up to be a piece of financial plumbing, a neutral tool designed for one specific job, providing liquidity instantly.
And this is the magic trick right here, on-demand liquidity, or ODL. So instead of having all that cash just sitting there in those Nostro accounts for days or weeks, ODL lets a bank grab exactly the liquidity it needs, right when it needs it, by using XRP as a super fast bridge between two different currencies.
And the way it works is just incredibly simple and fast. A bank in one country takes its local currency, say US dollars, and swaps it for XRP. That XRP flies across the globe in about 3 to 5 seconds. Then the bank on the other side immediately swaps it into its local currency, like the Mexican peso. The whole process is over in seconds. The need for those pre-funded accounts, it just disappears.
All right, so now that we've got the basics of both models, let's put them head to head, because this is where you really see how different these two worlds are.
And it really all comes down to this. On one side, you have the old way, a messaging system that depends on trillions of dollars being trapped and pre-funded. And on the other side, you have a new architecture, a system of direct, instant value transfer that creates liquidity the moment you need it.
And look, when you actually put the numbers side by side, it's not even close. We're not talking about a small improvement here. We're going from a speed of 3 to 5 times days down to 3 to 5 seconds. The cost goes from tens of dollars to fractions of a penny. Availability goes from restrictive banking hours to 24/7, 365 days a year. And the capital required goes from trillions frozen solid to liquidity available on demand. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete change in the physics of how money moves.
So when you see a comparison like that, you're probably thinking, okay, this new system is coming to just tear down and replace the old one. But that's not actually the goal. The strategy here isn't to burn the old system down, not at all. It's about integration,
building a bridge to the future of finance.
And the key to making this all work together is something called ISO 2022. The simplest way to think about it is like a universal translator for banks. It's a new, global standard that allows all financial systems, old and new, to speak the same language. SWIFT is upgrading to it, and new systems are being built with it.
And this is where the whole thing gets really smart. The XRP Ledger was actually designed to be compatible with ISO 22002 right from the start. It already speaks the language of global finance. So it's not positioned as a disruptor trying to tear things down. It's designed to be a bridge, a neutral piece of technology that connects the old world of finance with the new world of digital assets.
And you can't talk about changing finance without talking about regulation. This is absolutely key. Big banks and financial institutions, they're not going to touch new technology if there's any legal uncertainty. So the strategy has always been to work with regulators and central banks, not against them, to create a clear, compliant path for them to actually use this stuff.
Okay, so this brings us to our final and maybe most interesting part, the silent transition. Because a change this huge doesn't happen overnight with a big announcement. It happens slowly, methodically, and for the most part, totally out of sight.
Think about it. You never just flip a switch on global infrastructure. It's a careful, phased process. It always starts with small pilot tests. Then it moves into specific payment corridors, maybe just between two countries. From there, it expands regionally. And finally, after years of this, it just becomes the new, normal way of doing things. That process, it's happening right now.
Honestly, this is the best way to think about it. You don't see the operating system on your phone. You just open your apps. But without that invisible OS working silently in the background, nothing would function. XRP is being positioned to be that silent operating system for money, an invisible, foundational layer that just makes everything work faster and cheaper.
You know, there's a saying that really captures the essence of this whole thing. The history of money is written by those who build the infrastructure, not by those who speculate on it. It shifts the focus away from day-to-day price and onto the long-term utility of the technology itself.
So let's wrap up with this final thought. Given the massive inefficiencies of the old system, it feels pretty clear that a change is inevitable. The transition is already in motion. So the really interesting question isn't if things will change. The real question is, what happens to the world when trillions of dollars can finally move as fast as an email? What does that unlock?